Good morning, students. So welcome to ARK Reflections IAS newspaper analysis of the day. So let's catch up the important news articles from the today's newspaper. So we'll go with the important headlines. The RBI keeps the repo rate unchanged at 5.5%. So why RBI has to not change the repo rate? And what is the implications of not changing this repo rate? What if the RBI changes the repo rate, increases or decreases the repo rate? So we'll discuss all the things. And next important, GDP growth rate estimated. So the government has released the data that the GDP growth rate estimated at 7.7% to 2025. So we'll also discuss so why it is 7.7%. So what are the important factors contributed or the important sectors contributed for this 7.7 growth, and what is the present growth rate for the 2026 and the 2027. As parallel to it, even the RBI has released the GDP growth rate for the 2026 and the 2027. We'll also discuss that and those important factors contributing to it. So here, this is also one more important article. Here you can see the INCOIS. So Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services to launch Nirmal Sagar initiative to curb the marine pollution. Okay, this is about like the Nirmal Sagar, mostly about to curb the marine pollution. So under this initiative, INCOIS plans a research program to identify the sources, pathways, and sinks of marine litter in Indian Ocean. So this Nirmal Sagar is an initiative of INCOIS. This is important for your TGPSC or the UPSC also. Sometimes you can see in. Okay, next important article. So India needs innovative strategies to eliminate the TB. You know that India has the one of the highest cases in the world. So highest cases of TB cases, tuberculosis cases is in India. So what kind of strategies? Recently, ICMR has made a breakthrough by making one vaccine, prevent TB. So this vaccine. So what the authors is telling to tackle the TB. So the method of vaccination is not just enough. It need to be the factors of the multiple important steps, not just the TB, also the nutrition, also the government initiatives, also the diagnosis, the first immediate diagnosis of the disease in the persons. So these are the very important. Okay. So we'll discuss all these articles in the details. And next, so Russian president calls India a reliable partner. There is between like the Russian president. So he has also offered the Sukhoi 57, the fifth generation fighter aircraft for India, as the India's fifth generation fighter aircraft will take at least 5 more years coming to the power. So the Russian president, he has talked about the India-Russia relations. Okay, so he said that India is a reliable partner, and definitely, so they want to work with India for the larger goals. So this is also very important. Next important article. So the Great Nicobar project to benefit. Like here, maybe it's a political article, but we'll discuss about. So he has discussed that about the INS BAS. What is this INS BAS? And also, so what are the implications of this Great Nicobar project? What is the arguments by the opposition party? And all we'll discuss on what is the strategic importance of this project. We'll discuss in brief. And next important article. So this is very, very important article. Like MPC retains the repo rate, lowers the growth forecast. So monetary policy committee. So monetary policy committee, we know that what is the constituency, like who constituents this monetary policy committee comprises the 3 governors from the RBI, 3 members from the RBI, and the 3 members from the government of India. So both. So total 6 members will be the part of this MPC, monetary policy committee, and they will give the numbers for inflation. Okay, and also the growth forecast. So we'll discuss all these things in a detailed manner. And when it comes to the international relations, Like you see, the Lebanon and Israel war is going on, especially the southern Lebanon, the Hezbollah group, the anti-government group or the non-government, non-state actor like Hezbollah is fighting with the Israel. But the Israel has done a deal of truce with the Lebanon, and this truce deal was denied or completely not accepted by Hezbollah leaders. So that Lebanon president, he himself is telling that it is not your job to interfere in our country. Lebanon leader tells to Iran. We'll discuss all these articles in very brief, very fast. And here also there is one more article, like short articles like two leaks found in the International Space Station, no threat to crew. Xi Jinping is to traveling to North Korea next week in the first visit since 2019. US judge blocks Trump's government restrictions on legal migrations. Palestinian ambassador to UN calls on US to stop the Israeli annexation. So these are the major headlines. So we'll go one by one. Okay. So first, the GDP growth rate estimated at 7.7%. So very important news article. So government has released the growth rate. So government has released the growth rates. And what it is telling that 7 point, even this is 7.8 in the quarter 4 of 2025, 2020. But on an average, in the 2025 and 26, the total growth rate will be 7 point. Okay, the total growth rate will be 7.7, which is very good number as compared with the previous growth rate. It was 7.1 in the 2024-25. Okay, so this 7.7 growth rate we achieved. So what the government has said, what is the contributing factors for this 7.7 growth rate? The contributing factors was, the first important one was manufacturing. The growth in the manufacturing directly attribute to the 7.7 growth rate. And also in the service sector, very important, one of the backbone of our economy, the service sector, including what are the important parts of the service sector: transport, communication, tourism, IT services, financial services, fintech. So these all contributed to the growth rate of 7.7 growth rate of 2025 and 2026. But what happens to the present growth rate? That is 2026 and 2027. This is everyone's in mind. So what is the present growth rate? The present growth rate, the RBI estimated growth rate was 6.6%. 6.6%. Almost 1.1% growth has declined. 1.1%. Previously, the RBI mentioned it is 6.8. Now again they lowered because of the current global trends. So it has again lowered from 6.8 to 6.6% in the 2026 and the 2027. Almost 1.1% less than our previous financial year growth rate. So here we can see that financial year 2023 we have, like they didn't give financial year 24, it is 7.2, financial year 25 it is 7.1, financial year 26 it is 7.7, and the financial year 27 will be around 6.6 or something around like that. Okay, so this is very important numbers. These are very important numbers. Okay, so we'll move to the next article. So India needs innovative strategies to eliminate TB. So tuberculosis. So what is tuberculosis? It is caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So Mycobacterium tuberculosis, right? So we all know this basic information. So TB is caused by the Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and it is one of the most common diseases in India and in the whole world. India has the a high ratio of these TB diseases, and the TB diseases are mostly concentrated also in the lower income and middle income countries. Middle income countries, LIMI, or mostly they concentrate in the lower income and the middle income countries. So India is also one of the between these brackets, so we have the more number of cases. But why this came into the picture? This came into the picture because the ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, they have brought one vaccine called Prevent TB. So this is the vaccine they have brought. So this is fine. But is this the first vaccine? But there are other vaccines also. Like for example, Serum Institute of India. Serum Institute of India. So they also brought one vaccine called BM100. BM100. These are very important because in the prelims perspective also you will get these questions from BM1002 is the vaccine for which kind of diseases or which company has produced these vaccines. Okay. So BM100, yeah. And there is also another vaccine which is produced by another company, Immunovac. So there is one more vaccine, Immunovac. Okay, they produce these vaccines. So what is its efficacy rate? Means how much percentage it will work better. Especially in the TB case, there are different stages. First stage is a latent stage. So this is a very important. In the latent stage, what happens when the TB even infected person, he don't know, he didn't develop any symptoms, and the disease is not in a matured stage to even to transfer to another person. That is in the latent stage. And next is in the active stage. And this is the stage when the disease becomes very dangerous. Means it starts to show symptoms and he can infect other persons. He can infect or the disease can start contaminated. So a contamination will start and it will infect the other person. This is the active stage. And even he develops the symptom, even his body feels that. Okay. Next important phase was extrapulmonary stage. Extrapulmonary. This stage is very, very important. This extrapulmonary stage. So what it happens, the disease will change its location. It spreads its location, not just now from now. It's not just confined to the lungs. It will spread to the other organs of the body, including the liver, spleen, backbone, lymph nodes. So these are the various bones. So these are the places where this disease will start to spread and slowly decapitate the organs of human body. And this is the very advanced stage. Okay. So these vaccines have shown some efficacies nearly 50 to 60%. 50% to 60% for treating this extrapulmonary stage. So which vaccines? The BM1002 and Immunovac, these kind of vaccines. Mostly these vaccines are for plus 6 years. At least to use these vaccines, these are some plus 6 years. Okay. Next, what the author is telling that. Okay, this is the simple introduction. But what the author is telling is vaccines itself is enough. Is vaccines enough? This is the big question. Is vaccines itself the enough? This should be the strategy for India in treating the TB. Is it the strategy? As India also kept the ambitious target of 20 by 2025, India want to eliminate the TB. Eliminate the TB. Even the India has National TB Elimination Program or the TB Mukt Bharat. So as the WHO, what it said, by 2030, it should want to eliminate the TB from whole globe. But is it possible? Definitely not possible. Definitely not possible. Even at the current rate, out of 1 lakh people, how many are with the TB? It's around like 100 to 200 people is around with the TB cases. So this one they want to bring to 20 to 30 cases of 1 lakh. So the main problem is, again, we'll bring back the same question. Is the vaccines enough? or India has to do anything, because the TB is not a problem just with the medicines or something. So TB has three important reasons. One is, so the vaccine should play the major role, vaccines, and nutrition should play the major role. And next, the health mechanisms, or the health mechanisms or the institutional support, health institutions. Okay, these are the three important roles what the author has told. Vaccines, nutritions, by the nutritions, because mostly the TB, even if you take the TB mostly affects the persons who has the less BMI, less body mass index, and who has the weak immune systems. To make them the immune system strong, they need some very good nutrition. So the government also appointed the volunteers to support the nutrition supply for the TB affected persons. Every month they will give some kind of health nutrition ration. Okay, so that they want to eliminate the TB from the India. Okay, so what the author is telling, these three strategies are very important to tackle the vaccines. It's not just the vaccines and the nutrition. And what are the important challenges? Important challenges, or you can take the important measures. So what is the first challenge with the TB was, so in the latent stage itself, you have to detect the TB. In the latent stage means the early stage detection is very important, but which is not possible because a TB infected person by years on years, so he will develop so by years and years, what happens? He will develop the symptoms. So he will not develop the symptoms, so that he don't know that he is infected with the TB by after like 4 years, 5 years. Sometimes he will continuously have the TB, but it is in the very latent stage, and it will take some years to get matured. Okay, and next, so when the latent stage detection has done, so make sure that government should control that. Make sure to government to control that, to not reach this extra pulmonary stage. Extra pulmonary stage means which government have to provide the very good medication and very good vaccination. These three things will come in the measures. Also, the vaccines will come, nutrition support will come. Because why the nutrition plays very big role? Because the TB almost it dominates the human immune system. That is not just the factor. The social conditions here also play important parts. These low and middle income countries, LMICs, these low and middle income countries, what happens? The density of the population is too high. The density of the population is too high. They live very close to each other, so that the disease can spread very fast. And due to their economical capabilities, they can't eat the proper nutritious food. They can't eat the proper nutritious food. If they can't eat the proper nutritious food, what it will happen to their immunity? Definitely, their immune system is not so strong to tackle these kind of diseases. So TB diseases, even though it is very old, still the human body is not able to develop the natural immunity towards the TB. So that's why it is becoming the big challenge in India even today. Even today. Okay. So that is what the author is telling, that the government have to take these kind of measures. First, they have to identify the disease at very early stage. The author is telling one single point, that vaccines are not just enough. So he has mentioned the 5 important measures. First, you have to detect the TB at very early stage. So government has to take the steps to detect the TB at very early stage. Once it is detected, that it is make sure to give the proper medication and the healthcare facility, so that TB should not transform the transfer or the transit into the advanced stage, like extra pulmonary TB stage. If the extra pulmonary TB stage, once it's transformed, that it will eat his body by damaging all the organs, and also he can spread the disease very fast. And the third stage is vaccines should be very important role. It should develop the more vaccines with the high efficacy, more efficacy, like not 50%, 60%. It should be more. And the second stage will be the nutrition support. So what the government is giving the nutrition support as of now, they should also improve that nutrition. Okay. So, and for fifth stage, the institutional support should be given with the proper care for the high priority to this TB patients. So that's what this other is telling in his article. Okay. So next, so pressure to limit the India-Russia ties. Russia president calls for India a reliable partner. So this is also very important news. So what he is telling that India is a reliable, India is reliable partner. And also he has given some statements that so Russia will not interfere in the ties between the India and China tensions. So whatever the border issues, whatever the issues is brewing between the India and China, like Russia don't want to interfere, and it expects that the India and China will solve the issues amicably. Okay, that is one thing. And he also offered the manufacturing of the fifth generation fighter aircrafts. Fifth generation. What is the speciality of the fifth generation? Stealth. So this is the question they also asked in the 2026 prelims exam. So the stealth technology, which makes the fifth generation aircrafts very much different from the present 4 and 4.5 generation aircraft. So at present, India don't have the fifth generation aircrafts, and India has decided to manufacture the fifth generation aircrafts in, like, in the Rayalaseema AP region. Recently, the foundation stone was laid, okay, for the AMCA. So advanced medium combat aircraft, which will be ready only by and inducted by only by 2030. At least now 4 5, maybe it will take much more time. So that what India has done already, Pakistan is in the talks to get this fifth generation aircraft J-35 from China. Okay, J-35 from China. So India is getting lagging behind. So what the Putin has offered there will be no limitations for India and Russia when it comes to the defense ties. So we will completely transfer the technology, not just like the Rafales. So even India bought the Rafales, and still the next tender or the next purchase of 114 medium fighter aircraft, which is in the still stage. Why? Because the French government or the French company like Dassault, they don't want to transfer the source code of the Rafales. If they don't transfer the source code of the Rafales, so we can't integrate our local missiles like Akash. So not like beyond visual range Astra. Sorry, Astra. Astra is like a beyond visual range weapons. It's a air-to-air missiles. So Astra MK1, Astra MK2, these kind of Indian-made weapons, and also like the glide bombs, other Indian weapons, you can't integrate with the Rafales if you don't have a source code. So France is a continuous denial mode. It don't want to give the source code. So if bringing those kind of issues, the Putin said that we will not have any limitations when it comes to the defense between India and China. They were ready to supply and ready to share every technology with India, the full access. Okay, so here they have given the S Sukhoi 57 offer. So this is the very important news. Okay, so next, it's the Great Nicobar project. So Great Nicobar project, it is there from years. As of now, the Congress government is very strongly opposing this project by citing the environmental calamities or the environmental impact it brings to that region. So the Great Nicobar project mostly will be in here. Here there is INS Bas. INS Bas is a Indian Naval's airport station. Indian Naval Airport. It's an airport belongs to the Indian Navy. So INS Bas. So very, very important, INS Bas. So it belongs to India. INS means Indian Naval Ship Bas. So when it comes to the Great Nicobar project, so what is happening? When it comes to the Great Nicobar project, what is happening here? What the Congress government is telling that, so it will damage nearly 1.5 crore trees. 1.5 crore trees. At the same time, it is telling that so the BJP government is ready to displace many local communities, to displace local and tribal communities. So this displacement issue is also there, and also it will damage the rainforests, and it will damage the. So it not just the rainforest, it even damages this So we can see here what he's telling. INS. So they are telling that government is projecting that these, like when the Congress government is against the strategic important project. We are not. This is not a military project, as the Congress is telling. This is not a military project. Okay, but the BJP is projecting that it is a it has some strategic significance. Of course, it has strategic significance. That's why the Congress has bring this issue. Like you can enlarge the INS bars, so we don't have any problem because it is very much near to that place. But irrespective of the politics, this INS bars is very important. And what the Congress is arguing that 1.5 crore trees should be cut down and the displace of the local tribal communities, and it will also damage the coral reefs. It will also damage the coral reefs. So these projects will comes with the huge environmental cost. It will destroy the ecosystem of the local there. So that is what it is bringing. But what is the arguments by the government? What is the arguments by the ruling party and the government? So it will be if the Great Nicobar project materializes. So according to the Great Nicobar project, so they want to construct the international transshipment port. International transshipment port. International transshipment port. So like Malaysia, Singapore, they have the international transshipment port in that region. So if these international transshipment port comes, so India will get some business. So it will be a major port for imports to India, because the international transshipment port means, so many of the ships, the heavy, large cargo ships, they will not come to the Indian ports. Why? Because those ports, the Indian coastal ports, won't support the large ships because we don't have the shallow waters. Okay, we don't have the enough depth to anchor those large ships. But this international transshipment port in the Great Nicobar will facilitate these kind of these kind of shipping, large cargo ship, like unloading and the loading. And next important thing, they want to build a greenfield airport. They want to build a greenfield airport. As they're building these two, they will also build like tourism, like resorts, hotels, and urban amenities, like the residential areas, hospitals, to support the staff working in these places. So this is about the Great Nicobar project. Simply, Great Nicobar project. Government is saying it's a fully commercial project. So where it will enhance the India's economy and the growth, and it will improve the strategic access to the Malacca Strait in India, near the like Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So this is what it is happening. So here what we learned was, so what is the Congress point of view, and what is the India government's point of view. So this is what their point of views, and there also the important thing they mentioned was INS Bas. INS Bas is a Indian naval station, so very important. Okay. So next important, MPC retains the repo rate and lowers the growth forecast. So MPC means Monetary Policy Committee. What is, how many members it will constitute? 3 members from RBI and 3 members from Government of India. These all things we know, this gender. And they will release the report. What is their main function? So they will, main function is to give the reports on inflation and growth, inflation growth rate. Okay, this is fine. What they have done was, so the repo rate. What is this repo rate? This repo rate is the when the private banks has taken loan from the RBI, the RBI will they will collect some interest on this loan, and this loan from last 3 consecutive terms it was 5.25%. So around 5.25%. They are unchanging that interest rate, so that which means that if they don't change, so what will happen? If the repo rate has increased, what happens? If the repo rate has increased to 6% or 5.5% or 6%, just imagine. So what will happen? The government will take money from the RBI at at least just imagine a 6% interest rate. So definitely it will give loans to its consumers less than 6% or more than 6%. Definitely more than 6%. So loans become costly. Loans become expensive. If the loans become expensive, the investments will decline or in the downward trend because you are getting the loans at a higher interest rate. So are you ready to take the loan? Definitely no. So it will impact the growth of the Indian economy. It will definitely impact the growth of the Indian economy. So if it decreases, if it not decreases, if it decreases a little, it will also benefits the Indian economy. But even at the maintaining the same status quo also, it thinks that like the RBI thinks that according to the current global trends, this Iran issue and the our import of this gas and the crude oil issue. So what happens? So they expect that the food inflation will be increased very soon. The food inflation also will be increased. So with here they have projected that CPI food inflation will be nearly in the previous it was 4.8%. Now it is getting increased to 5.1%. Means the food inflation is increased. So they have added the factors like this war issue, so import of this crude oil and the transport discrepancies, and also the El Nino factor also they have added. They have added the El Nino factors because due to the El Nino, what will happen? We have the less than average rainfall, which we predicted. Usually the long period average, 88% long period average rainfall. This time we only will have 90% of these 88 centimeters. 90% of these 88 centimeters. So that the availability of the water resources will be less. It impacts our food production. When it impacts our food production, the food prices increase and food inflation will happen. Definitely it will be added with these kind of global uh, issues. So the food inflation will be more. Already we are seeing that these things. And, and the growth rate. So they also have given the growth rate. The India's growth rate by in 20 the financial year 27 is 6.6%. This is very important. And other than this, to encourage the foreign investors into India, so they are bringing so 15, 30, and 40-year tenure government securities. So G6 they are bringing 15, 15, 30, and 40 years. 15, 30, and 40 years of G6. Very, very important. So 15, 30, and 40 years of G6. And they also increase the investment capability for the OCI holders and the NRIs, non-residential Indians, and also the overseas citizens of the India. So this is the important measures they are taking. The RBI is taking that. The biggest measure they have taken is the unchanged or they kept the same of this repo rate. When this repo rate is there, so the government, so the banks no need to worry and they have continue the same interest rates which they are at present. They are continuing. So that is actually good. So this makes the our rupee to strengthen a bit. So we'll go to the next article. So E8 to be the about 20 rupees 20 per liter. So government, as yesterday's was the World Environment Day, government has introduced the E85. In the E85, what will happen? 80 to 85% of ethanol blended ethanol will be there, and 15 to 20% will be gasoline or petroleum will be there. And this is for not all the vehicles. Like for example, if our vehicles are more hardly will support the E20. If we use this flex fuel, what will happen? Our vehicles will won't run properly. Okay, this is only for the FFVs. So flex fuel vehicles. These are flex fuel vehicles, not for every vehicle. Only the flex fuel vehicles. Okay. So and what happens? And if this is cheaper comparing to the present petrol, almost rupees 20 rupees cheaper, around 82 rupees. 20 rupees cheaper. And what is their price? 82.2 per liter. Per liter price is this. So what is the implications of these ethanol blended fuels on Indian economy? What are the implications? So as we are discussing that just now, because of the crude oil shortage and the gas shortages, so these ethanol is produced by in India. So our our crude oil security will be little higher. So as we know, we are importing less, and our forex reserves will be high. Our farmers' income also will be high. So these are the important thing. And also the main important thing for environment. The greenhouse emission gases, GHG gases, the greenhouse gases are the pollutants we release from our traditional vehicles. So it will be much less in the this kind of E85 because the ethanol blend is more. When it comes to the challenges, okay, we discussed about the positives. And when it comes to the challenges, we don't have the proper infrastructure, and we are using these food crops which are very water intensive. Just now we are discussing about the super El Nino, where the water availability will be less. In the super El Nino case, what will happen? Water availability will be less. So how much it is ethical to use these water intensive crops for the ethanol generation will be one important case study. And we don't have proper infrastructure. That is also one issue. And also the vehicles which are not ready, and also the calorific value of E85 will be less. Calorific value means, this is very important, the calorific value. So the energy or the calories which 1 liter will generate, 1 liter of any kind of fuel, when it undergo into the combustion, how much energy it will generate. So compared to the combustion efficiency of the petrol or the gasoline, diesel, so it will be much higher. It will be higher compared to the E85. Why? Because here, then what is the issue? It means that instead of burning 1 liter, so to travel the same distance, that engine has to burn the 2 liters when it comes to the E85. So fuel consumption will be more in this E85 petrol, as it has a less energy ratio. So what will happen? So the fuel consumption will be high, and again the price will be almost like a same. These kind of issues are there with these kind of ethanol blends, especially when it comes to the FFPs, the flex fuel vehicles. Okay. So next, the Israel-Lebanon war is going on. Israel-Lebanon war is going on, and with Israel, the Lebanon has agreed a temporary truce, but this was rejected by Hezbollah and also the Iran. And directly he is telling that it is not your job to interfere in our country. This is one of the very important international relations. So from long time, this Lebanon has the issue. In the Lebanon, if you see the map, so this is the both Israel and Lebanon border. In the Lebanon, there are three important communities which have the high ratio: Maronite Christians, Sunnis, and Shias. So this country is dominated by these three important people. So even the power, how they share. So always the president will be the Maronite Christian, and prime minister will be the Shia, and the Lok Sabha speaker will be the Sunni. So that's why they even have the civil war. They even have the civil war. So here, mostly supporting the Iran is belongs to Shia community. Supporting the Iran, that Hezbollah groups belongs to Shia community. So that's what directly the government is telling, that just Hezbollah is not a it's not a state actor. It's a non-state actor. It directly cannot go to the war with another country or to make any deals. Okay, so that's what these Lebanese government directly interfering, and they want to curtail this, and they don't want their people, because the Lebanese is not a rich country. It is a poverty, it's a country of poverty. So that's what they don't want their people to suffer, and they want to end this conflict. So this is the total news of today. Tomorrow we'll meet with the latest news of tomorrow. Thank you.